Commander James stood at the viewport of the Earth Defense Fleet's flagship, the Vigilant. His eyes traced the distant moons of Jupiter as they danced around the gas giant. The outer solar system patrol was usually quiet. Humanity had only recently ventured beyond Mars with any regularity. The vast emptiness still made him feel small despite his 15 years in space. "Sir, we're picking up unusual readings," Lieutenant Parker called from the sensor station. "Unknown vessel at coordinates 4-73 Mark 8. It's not matching any Earth registry." James straightened his uniform. "Show me." The main display flickered to life, revealing a ship unlike anything he'd seen before. Its design defied human engineering. Organic curves blended with crystalline structures that seemed to pulse with inner light. But something was wrong. The vessel tumbled slowly, venting what looked like atmosphere from its damaged hull. "Are we getting any communications?" James asked. "Nothing, sir. No response on any frequency." James made his decision quickly. "Bring us alongside. Prepare a boarding team. Full containment protocols." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. Within 20 minutes, James led a team of 6 across the void between the ships. Their magnetic boots clicked against the alien hull as they searched for an entry point. "This material," said Medical Officer Thompson, running a scanner over the surface. "It's almost like it's grown rather than built." They found an opening, a perfect hexagon that irised open at their approach. Inside, the air was breathable, if strange smelling. The corridors pulsed with dim blue light, guiding them deeper. "Life signs ahead," Thompson whispered. "Just one." They found the alien in what appeared to be the control room. The creature lay slumped over a console, its four-armed body trembling. Its skin was pale blue, textured like fine leather, with no visible hair. When it turned to face them, James saw large, multifaceted eyes that reminded him of a dragonfly's. The alien jerked back in terror when it saw them, chittering sounds emerging from its mouth parts. It scrambled away until it hit a wall, raising its upper limbs in what seemed like a defensive posture. "We're not going to hurt you," James said slowly, motioning his team to lower their weapons. He held up empty hands. "We're here to help." Thompson moved forward cautiously, medical scanner humming. "It's injured. Some kind of internal trauma." She reached for her kit. "I think I can help, but I don't know its physiology." The alien watched them, its breathing rapid. Then, to James's surprise, it spoke in halting English. "You, humans, from Earth?" James nodded. "Yes, I'm Commander James of the Earth Defense Fleet. We saw your ship was damaged." The alien's many-faceted eyes blinked rapidly. "I am Krell, Ambassador of Galactic Council." It seemed to struggle with each word. "You should kill me now. Easier." Thompson looked up from her scanner. "Commander, I think I can stabilize it. Him, but we need to get him to our medical bay." James knelt to eye level with the alien. "We're not going to kill you. We're going to help you." Krell's body shuddered. "Not possible. Humans always kill." "Not today," James said firmly. He signaled to his team, who carefully lifted the alien onto a stretcher. Back aboard the Vigilant, Thompson worked for hours in the medical bay while James waited outside. The crew whispered excitedly. The first confirmed intelligent alien life, and it was right here on their ship. When Thompson finally emerged, her face was flushed with excitement. "He's stable. His biology is fascinating. Copper-based blood, triple-lobed brain, regenerative capabilities I can only dream about." "Can I speak with him?" James asked. Inside, Krell sat upright on the examination table, looking less frail than before. His large eyes fixed on James with what seemed like confusion. "You saved me," Krell said, his English noticeably improved. "Why?" "It's what we do," James replied simply. "Help those in need." Krell's upper limbs made a complex gesture. "This contradicts all Council intelligence. Humans are warriors, killers. The quarantine was established because your species is too dangerous. James blinked in surprise. Quarantine? We've never even met aliens before today. You truly don't know. Krell's voice had a new tone. Wonder, perhaps. The Council has observed Earth for centuries. Your broadcasts, your history of warfare, your survival against impossible odds. The entire galaxy fears humans. James laughed, then realized Krell was serious. There's been some kind of mistake. We're explorers, not conquerors. Krell leaned forward. Then why does your most ancient rule state, we do not kill humans? A species that must forbid killing its own kind must be truly terrible. James felt a chill run down his spine. Something was very wrong here. I think, he said carefully, we have a lot to talk about. The Earth Orbital Station Liberty hung in space like a gleaming wheel, its massive solar arrays turning to catch the sunlight. Inside the station's diplomatic quarters, Commander James watched as Krell stared through the viewport at the blue-green planet below. So beautiful, the alien ambassador said, his four arms making gentle motions in the air. Yet we were taught to fear it above all else. Admiral Fisher, head of the Earth Defense Fleet, crossed her arms. I find it hard to believe an advanced galactic civilization would quarantine us based on our entertainment broadcasts. Krell turned from the window. His insect-like eyes reflected the room in countless tiny facets. Not just entertainment. We monitored your news, your wars, your rapid technological progress. No other species in recorded history has advanced from primitive flight to space travel in less than a century. Dr. Miller, Earth's leading xenobiologist, tapped her tablet. But surely you could have made direct contact, learned the truth about us. The Council feared contamination, Krell explained, both biological and cultural. When our long-range probes detected nuclear detonations on your world, the quarantine was strengthened. Species that survive their own destructive tendencies often become even more dangerous. James leaned forward. But you mentioned movies and games too. You can't have thought those were real. A sound like chattering insects emerged from Krell, apparently laughter. Consider our perspective. We intercepted thousands of transmissions showing humans fighting impossible odds, surviving conditions that would kill any Council species, enduring pain beyond imagination. Krell activated a small projector on his wrist device. Images flickered in the air. Scenes from action movies, war documentaries, survival stories. In this one, a single human defeats 20 armed opponents, Krell noted. In another, humans continue fighting with injuries that would incapacitate any Council member. And here, humans willingly enter burning structures to save others. Admiral Fisher's stern expression softened. Those are firefighters. They're trained for rescue operations. Precisely, Krell said. You train to run toward danger. Most species run away. The room fell silent as the humans exchanged glances. James had never considered how ordinary human courage might appear to outside eyes. Your misunderstanding goes deeper than movies, Dr. Miller said quietly. What about our music, our art, our humanitarian efforts? The Council's data analysts were selective, Krell admitted. Peace doesn't justify quarantine. They needed evidence of danger. Admiral Fisher stood abruptly. This still doesn't explain why your ship was damaged when we found you. Krell's body seemed to shrink slightly. I am part of a minority faction within the Council. We believe the quarantine policy is based on fear, not facts. I came to study humans directly, to gather evidence for peaceful contact. His voice dropped lower. Not everyone agreed with this mission. Your own people attacked you, James asked. The Council is not unified, Krell explained. Some species benefit from Earth's isolation. Others genuinely fear you. He touched a control on his device again, showing a star chart. Your solar system sits at a strategic location. With faster-than-light technology, which you nearly possess, humans could reach dozens of inhabited worlds within weeks. Dr. Miller studied the map with growing excitement. All this time we thought we were alone in the galaxy. Far from it, Krell said. And that brings me to my warning. The star chart zoomed out, showing a cluster of flashing lights moving toward Earth's solar system. These are Council military vessels. My mission was discovered. They believe I've been captured or killed. Admiral Fisher's face hardened. How much time do we have? Perhaps 2 of your weeks, Krell replied. They will not come to negotiate. James felt his stomach tighten. What do they want? Krell's many-faceted eyes seemed to darken. To ensure the human problem is solved permanently. The Council's military arm has decided your species cannot be allowed to join the galactic community. They're coming to destroy us, Admiral Fisher said flatly. It wasn't a question. Krell nodded slowly. And they are bringing enough firepower to do it. The Emergency Council chamber of Liberty Station hummed with tense energy. Representatives from Earth's major nations sat around the circular table, faces grim under the harsh light. Admiral Fisher stood at the head, a holographic display of the solar system rotating slowly behind her. Ambassador Krell has provided us with the Council fleet's specifications, she said, gesturing to the alien who stood quietly in the corner. Their weapons technology exceeds ours by several generations. Their shields can withstand our most powerful missiles. President Marquez of the United Nations leaned forward. How many ships are we facing? 23 capital ships and approximately 100 support vessels, Krell answered. His voice translator gave his words a metallic edge. The fleet is commanded by Fleet Commander Voss. He is efficient, and he believes deeply in the threat humans pose. Can we negotiate? Asked the representative from India. Surely they would listen to reason. Krell's 4 arms moved in a complex gesture of negation. Voss was selected precisely because he does not compromise. He has ended 3 species he deemed threats to galactic stability. The room fell silent. James watched the faces around him absorb this information, the first contact with alien life, and it came with a death sentence for humanity. Dr. Miller broke the silence. Ambassador, you said there are factions within the Council who oppose this action. Can they help us? I have sent encrypted messages through emergency channels, Krell said. But even my allies fear humans. They may choose not to intervene. Admiral Fisher tapped the table, bringing up a new display, Earth's defensive capabilities. We have 300 orbital platforms, 40 armed spacecraft, and ground-based defenses. It won't be enough. James stood up. All eyes turned to him. We don't need to match their firepower. We need to change their minds. Explain, President Marx demanded. According to Krell, the Council fears us because they don't understand us. They've built a picture of humanity from fragments. Our most violent movies, our most devastating wars. James walked to the holographic display. What if we show them who we really are? Dr. Miller nodded slowly. Psychological warfare in reverse. Instead of frightening them, we demonstrate our capacity for peace. It won't work, Admiral Fisher countered. Not with weapons pointed at our planet. Krell stepped forward. Commander James may be right. The Council's orders are to eliminate the human threat. If there is no threat. James looked at the alien. Can you contact the fleet directly? Request a meeting. It would be dangerous, Krell said. Voss might consider me compromised, a traitor. We need to try everything, James insisted. While we prepare our defenses, we should also prepare for peace. The debate continued for hours. Engineers proposed shield modifications based on Krell's knowledge. Military strategists outlined desperate last-stand scenarios. Scientists suggested ways to hide Earth's population in underground bunkers. Through it all, James kept returning to one thought. They needed to change the narrative. Later, in a quiet corridor, Krell found James staring out a viewport at Earth. Your plan has little chance of success, the alien said softly. James nodded. I know, but tell me honestly, are we what the Council believes we are? Violent, dangerous, uncontrollable. Krell was silent for a long moment. In my short time among humans, I have seen kindness I did not expect. You saved me when you could have let me die. Your doctors healed me without knowing if I was friend or enemy. His multifaceted eyes seemed to shimmer. But I have also studied your history. The violence you have inflicted upon each other is troubling. We're complicated, James admitted. But we're better than they think we are. We have to make them see that. Krell's upper limbs made a gesture James had come to recognize as agreement. I will help. I have established contact with Council moderates on 3 systems. They are willing to listen, though not yet to act. That's a start, James said, looking back at the blue planet below. We'll need to show Commander Voss something he doesn't expect from the terrifying humans. What is that? Krell asked. James turned to face the alien. Restraint. The Council fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system, their ships gleaming like polished obsidian against the starfield. From the observation deck of Earth's furthest outpost near Neptune, James watched the tactical display with a hollow feeling in his stomach. Each enemy vessel outmatched Earth's best ships in every category. Incoming transmission, Lieutenant Parker announced, her voice steadied despite the tension. It's being broadcast on all frequencies. The main screen flickered, revealing a figure that made James inhale sharply. Commander Voss resembled Krell in basic shape, but where Krell was slight and scholarly, Voss was massive. His blue-gray exoskeleton looked thick as armor, and his forearms bore ceremonial scars. When he spoke, his translator rendered his words with cold precision. Inhabitants of Sol System, I am Fleet Commander Voss of the Galactic Council Security Force. Your quarantine has been violated. Your species has captured Council personnel. You have 48 Earth hours to surrender Ambassador Krell and prepare for population control measures. Admiral Fisher stepped forward. This is Admiral Fisher of Earth Defense Fleet. Ambassador Krell is here by choice. We request a diplomatic meeting to resolve this peacefully. Voss's multifaceted eyes seemed to narrow. Humans do not dictate terms. Your reputation is known to us. Our reputation is based on misunderstanding, Fisher countered. We invite Council representatives to observe Earth directly. See for yourselves what kind of species we are. The alien commander was silent for several seconds. A deception. Humans are masters of deception. Krell moved into the transmission frame. Commander Voss, I am unharmed. I came to Earth voluntarily to verify Council intelligence. I have found significant discrepancies in our understanding of human nature. You are compromised, Ambassador, Voss said flatly, perhaps mentally altered by human technology. Dr. Miller joined the conversation. Commander, we possess no such technology. We offer full biological scans of Ambassador Krell to verify his mental state. Furthermore, James added, stepping forward, we will allow a Council delegation safe passage to Earth. No restrictions, no weapons on either side. Observe us as we truly are. Voss made a sharp gesture that cut the transmission. The room fell silent. Will it work? President Marquez asked, looking at Krell. The alien's upper limbs moved in a gesture of uncertainty. Voss is calculating risk. If humans are as dangerous as Council records suggest, allowing a delegation to land would be foolish. But refusing reasonable terms makes him appear fearful, which diminishes his standing. Hours passed with no response. Earth's military forces moved into defensive positions while civilian populations were quietly evacuated from coastal cities to underground shelters. News networks worldwide reported only that an international space incident was underway. The truth was deemed too potentially destabilizing. In a private meeting room, James found Krell creating complex patterns with his forehands, a behavior he'd noticed when the alien was deep in thought. What are you doing? James asked. Probability calculations, Krell replied without stopping. An old technique from my culture. The movements help focus thought. And what are the probabilities of our survival? Krell's hands paused. If Voss attacks immediately, Earth faces destruction. Your technology cannot withstand the Council fleet. And if he accepts our invitation, then the probability shifts. Krell's eyes fixed on James. Humans appear most dangerous in council records. In person, your empathy becomes visible. It changes perceptions. The station's alert system suddenly blared. They rushed back to the command center. 3 vessels have detached from the main fleet, Parker reported. Smaller class, approaching at sublight speed. Admiral Fisher checked the readings. Minimal weapons signature. Could be diplomatic craft. The communication system chimed again. Commander Voss appeared on screen, his posture rigid. We accept your terms, humans. A delegation will observe your civilization. But understand this, the fleet remains in position. Any threat to our representatives will result in immediate planetary bombardment. James exchanged glances with Fisher. It wasn't much, but it was a chance. We understand, Fisher replied. We will prepare to receive your delegates. As the transmission ended, Krell made a new gesture James hadn't seen before. What does that mean? James asked. It means standing between fires, Krell explained. It is what we call a dangerous opportunity. The council delegation arrived at Liberty Station in a sleek vessel that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. 7 aliens disembarked, representatives from different council species. Their leader, Sub-Commander Trell, shared Voss's species but lacked his imposing size. The others were a biological mosaic. One floated in a transparent containment field, another moved on multiple tentacle-like limbs, and the remaining 4 varied in size and form from nearly human to utterly foreign. Dr. Miller greeted them in the docking bay, her face composed despite her scientific excitement. Welcome to Earth space. I'm Dr. Miller, Chief of Xenobiology. I'll be your primary guide during your observation. Trell's translator converted his chittering speech. We are not here as guests, human. We are here to assess threat levels. Of course, Miller replied evenly. And the best way to do that is to observe us as we live. We've prepared transportation to Earth. The alien delegates conferred briefly, their translators muted. Finally, Trell nodded. We will observe, but our sensors will record everything. Deception will be detected. The shuttle ride to Earth was silent and tense. James watched the aliens as they looked down at the blue planet. Most seemed wary, but the floating delegate pressed against its containment field, apparently eager for a closer view. Their first destination was the United Nations headquarters in New York. As the aliens walked through the General Assembly chamber, Trell stopped before the massive mural depicting people of all nations working together. Propaganda, he said dismissively. President Marquez, who had joined the tour, shook her head. Reality we strive for. We don't always succeed, but we try. Your history suggests otherwise, countered the tentacled delegate. Continuous warfare for most of your recorded time. True, Miller admitted. But look at this. She directed them to a display showing global conflict trends. Major wars have decreased over time. We learn, slowly but steadily. The delegation remained skeptical as they visited key sites around the world. Hospitals where children of all backgrounds received care. Universities where knowledge was freely shared. Restoration projects where damaged ecosystems were being rebuilt. In a massive greenhouse in formerly barren land, the floating delegate, introduced as Neil, finally broke protocol to address James directly. You preserve species with no utility, it asked, observing an endangered butterfly conservation project. Beauty is utility, James replied. Diversity makes our world stronger. Inefficient, Neil commented, but its tone seemed curious rather than critical. On the 3rd day, as they toured a historical museum chronicling humanity's darkest moments alongside its greatest achievements, the ground suddenly trembled. Warning sirens wailed across the city. What deception is this? Trell demanded, his 4 arms moving to defensive positions. Earthquake, Miller explained, checking her tablet for reports. A natural disaster, 7.2 magnitude, centered 50 miles offshore. The museum's emergency systems activated. Staff calmly directed visitors to safety zones. Through the windows, James could see buildings swaying but holding firm, modern earthquake engineering at work. "We should return to orbit," Trell insisted. "Wait," James said, pointing to the emergency broadcasts now playing on all screens. "Watch how we respond to crisis." For the next hours, the delegation observed as emergency teams deployed. Civilians formed volunteer chains passing supplies. Medical personnel treated the injured without asking nationality or payment status. When a building partially collapsed, trapping dozens, rescue workers dug through rubble despite aftershocks threatening their own lives. The tentacled delegate, named Orm, moved closer to James. "They risked themselves for strangers." "It's what we do," James said simply. A particular rescue caught everyone's attention. A human child had been trapped with a visiting family from one of Earth's few alien trading partners, a reptilian species from Alpha Centauri. The news cameras showed firefighters extracting everyone, giving the alien visitors the same emergency care as the human child. Trell watched this silently, his faceted eyes unreadable. Humans treat non-humans with care. Krell, who had been quietly accompanying the tour, stepped forward. "This is what I try to explain, Sub-Commander. Council intelligence is incomplete. Humans fight fiercely, yes. But they also protect fiercely, even those different from themselves." The floating meal bobbed in its containment field. Fascinating behavior pattern, not consistent with threat assessment. For the first time since their arrival, James felt a small spark of hope. The delegation spent 5 days on Earth, their initial suspicion gradually giving way to cautious curiosity. They observed schools, farms, art galleries, and ordinary homes. Trell remained formal, but the other delegates increasingly engaged with humans they met. Neil, the floating delegate, became particularly interested in human music, hovering near street performers whenever possible. On the 6th day, as they prepared to return to orbit for their final report, an urgent message came from Commander Voss. The delegation was ordered to return immediately. "Has something happened?" James asked Trell as they boarded the shuttle. "Not your concern, human," Trell replied, but his posture suggested tension. Back on Liberty Station, Admiral Fisher met them with a grave expression. "We've detected unusual movement from the Council fleet. 3 vessels have broken formation and are moving toward Earth orbit." Trell's translator crackled as he responded quickly. "Routine patrol adjustment." Before anyone could respond further, alarms blared throughout the station. Lieutenant Parker rushed in. "Sir, we've lost contact with Shuttle Delta 9. It was carrying diplomats from the Centauri system. Last transmission showed system failure near the Atlantic seaboard." Fisher's face paled. "How many on board?" 12 passengers, 4 crew. Mix of humans and Centaurians." James noticed the alien delegates exchanging glances. Krell's 4 arms made a subtle gesture that James had come to recognize as suspicion. "We need to coordinate search and rescue immediately," James said, moving toward the operations center. "This is a council matter now," Trell interrupted. The shuttle entered restricted space designated by Commander Voss. "We will handle recovery." Fisher stood her ground. "Those are Earth citizens and our Centaurian guests. We're launching rescue operations." Within minutes, Earth vessels were racing toward the crash site. James joined the lead rescue ship, along with Dr. Miller. To his surprise, Krell requested to join them. "This does not feel right," Krell said quietly as their ship accelerated through the atmosphere. "The timing is too convenient." The shuttle had gone down in shallow coastal waters. When they arrived, local fishing boats were already circling the area, several fishermen diving with simple gear to reach the sinking craft. James led the professional rescue team into the water. The shuttle's hull was breached, water flowing in rapidly. Through the viewports, he could see passengers trapped inside, some human, some the scaled Centaurians. "The emergency release is jammed," called one of the rescue divers. James swam to the manual override, straining against the damaged mechanism. His lungs burned as he worked underwater, But finally, the door hissed open. He and the team pulled survivors out one by one, passing them to the waiting boats above. One Centaurian child was trapped beneath fallen equipment. James and two others lifted the heavy debris, cutting their hands on the twisted metal but refusing to let go until the child was freed. When they finally returned to the surface with all survivors, James was surprised to see 3 council vessels hovering overhead, observing the entire operation. Back at the makeshift medical center on shore, James found Krell examining the shuttle's recovered flight recorder. "This was deliberate," Krell said softly, showing James the data. The shuttle systems were remotely deactivated. Only council technology could do this with such precision. James stared at the alien. "You're saying Voss caused the crash?" "A test," Krell replied, "to see how humans would respond to a crisis involving non-humans." Before James could respond, the ground shook as a larger council vessel landed nearby. Commander Voss himself emerged, flanked by guards. His massive form dominated the beach as he strode toward the medical tents. Trell and the other delegates had arrived as well. They stood watching as human doctors treated the injured without distinction between species. Voss approached James, his translator rendering his deep, clicking voice. "You risked your life for Centaurians. Why?" "They needed help," James answered simply. Even knowing this might be a council operation, James met the alien commander's many-faceted eyes. "It doesn't matter who they are or who put them in danger. We don't leave people to die when we can save them." Voss turned to Trell. "Your assessment?" Trell seemed to hesitate. "The humans are not as our intelligence suggested. They are complex. Deceptively peaceful," Voss countered. "A tactic." From behind them, a new voice spoke. It was Neil, the floating delegate. "Commander, I must report an inconsistency. In all our observations, the humans' first response to danger was to protect others, even non-humans, even strangers. This contradicts our threat assessment." Voss's upper limbs made a dismissive gesture. "Irrelevant. The council has decided." "Has it?" Krell stepped forward, holding up a small communication device. "I've been in contact with the council moderates. They've been watching everything through the delegates' feeds. They've called for a full review of the human quarantine policy." Voss's posture shifted subtly, the first sign of uncertainty James had seen in the imposing alien. Something was changing in the delicate balance of power. The council battleships hung in Earth's orbit like dark stars, their weapon systems still active, but no longer targeting the planet below. On Liberty Station's observation deck, James watched as Voss and Admiral Fisher signed the preliminary agreement, the first official document between Earth and the Galactic Council. "A temporary measure only," Voss insisted, his voice translator struggling to convey his reluctance. "The full council must vote on permanent status." Fisher nodded. "We understand, but it's a beginning." The last week had transformed the situation entirely. After the shuttle incident, the council fleet had split. 11 ships remained under Voss's command, while the others positioned themselves between Earth and the commander's forces. The moderate faction, led by representatives from 3 elder species, had finally taken action. Krell approached James as the signing ceremony concluded. "You understand this isn't over," the alien said quietly. "Voss still commands significant forces, and many in the council remain suspicious of humans." "But they're talking now instead of shooting," James replied. "That's progress." The station's large meeting hall had been transformed for an unprecedented gathering. Representatives from Earth's nations sat alongside delegates from 12 council species. The discussion was difficult, with translation issues and cultural misunderstandings causing frequent pauses, but the very fact of the meeting seemed miraculous. President Marquez addressed the gathering, her voice steady. "We have learned much about the galaxy in these few days. Most importantly, that we are not alone. Earth wishes to join the galactic community as partners, not threats." The elder from Neil's species, a larger floating entity with luminescent patterns swirling across its surface, responded. The fundamental concern remains. Humans adapt too quickly, fight too fiercely, and your history shows a pattern of expansion. Dr. Miller stepped forward. You've misinterpreted our nature. Yes, we fight when threatened. But our greatest achievements came through cooperation, not conquest. Precisely the issue, Voss interjected. You cooperate to become stronger. Then what? James had been quiet throughout the exchange, but now he spoke. Commander Voss, you arranged the shuttle incident as a test. What did you expect to see? Voss's upper limbs made a gesture of acknowledgement. I expected humans to prioritize their own kind, or to use the incident as justification for aggression. Instead, we saved everyone we could reach, regardless of species, James continued. That's who we are at our best. Krell moved to the center of the room. The Council has misunderstood a fundamental aspect of human nature. Their rule, we do not kill humans, isn't evidence of bloodthirst. It's their recognition of the value of all life, beginning with their own kind. The room fell silent as Krell activated a holographic display showing scenes from Earth's history, not just wars, but also rescue operations, medical breakthroughs, peaceful protests, and artistic achievements. Humans fight fiercely to protect, not just to conquer, Krell explained. Their adaptability makes them valuable allies, not just dangerous enemies. A new figure entered the conversation, a Council intelligence officer who had remained silent until now. The insect-like alien's translator conveyed a reluctant admission. There is more. Certain Council species have enhanced human reputation for danger to justify quarantine. Mineral-rich solar system, strategic position, economic advantages. The revelation sent shockwaves through the gathering. Several Council delegates chittered angrily amongst themselves. James caught Voss's expression, not surprise, but confirmation. You knew, James said to the commander. Suspected, Voss corrected. Politics exists even in the Council. The meeting continued for hours, debates growing heated then cooling as new understanding emerged. Finally, a framework for moving forward took shape. Earth would join the Council provisionally. Human representatives would visit Council worlds under careful protocols. Knowledge would be exchanged gradually. As the gathering dispersed, James found himself standing with Krell at the viewport, looking down at the blue planet. 6 months ago, I was patrolling Jupiter's moons, believing humans were alone in the universe, James said. Now we're negotiating with a galactic government. Krell's upper limbs made the gesture James had learned meant agreement. The Council will establish an embassy on Earth. I have requested to be its first permanent ambassador. And the quarantine lifted, though travel restrictions remain. Krell turned his multifaceted eyes toward James. The phrase that frightened us, we do not kill humans, will now serve a new purpose. What do you mean? The Provisional Agreement's first article states, we do not kill humans, and humans do not kill Council members. A mutual protection pact. Krell's translator conveyed what might have been amusement. What we once feared may become the foundation of peace. Outside the viewport, Council ships and Earth vessels moved in careful patterns, learning to share the same space. Below, a new chapter in human history had begun, not with conquest or surrender, but with a simple recognition of shared values across the stars.